Hello everybody, you're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host Dane Cobain. This is the weekly radio show where we chat about the local arts news. We have a different guest on each week. We head over to the Rhylight Zone for some short stories and or some poetry. We play some local unsigned and indie music, and we head over to the Ilk Shed to catch up with Twangling Jack Ford for a weekly album review. As always, you can reach out to me here at the studio by dropping me an email on dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. And I'm particularly keen to hear from poets, performers, musicians, people with stories to share, arts news, MP3s, people who might make good guests. Let me know, get in touch. You can also find us on Facebook. If you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. And we're repeated on Monday nights on Wickham Sound. We're on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, and you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. So this week we have a highlights show, basically because we can and because I'm busy working on some new guests for us. But before we get to the highlights, this is a new sort of sojourn into the Rhylight Zone with part one of Oceanus, which is kind of a long form epic poem that I worked on that's kind of word association. It's based on the story of the Titanic. It's actually based on the Wikipedia page for the Titanic that was live exactly 100 years after the ship sank. So part one of Oceanus by myself, Dane Cobain. Late in the afternoon, hope died out. The waiting crowds thinned and silent men and women sought their homes. In the humbler homes of Southampton, there is scarcely a family who has not lost a relative or friend. Children returning from school appreciated something of tragedy, and woeful little faces were turned to the darkened, fatherless homes. The Daily Mail, 23rd of April 1912. Oceanus. It sank in the now, expat down with all hands, seen one Wednesday in a sinking southern city. It hit the April showers, serving death en route to Yorkshire, killing peace and war, and Mary timed it well. She was the biggest, longest woman to float the Virgin shore. She carried earthly money, moving west with dragons and searching for the New World Order. It was final, fit as fiddles and sinking in opulence. She was power disguised as newspapers, tight eyes distant and darting to the doors. Mary was barely alive, a product of time with 1,000 close relations, half of them drowning underwater. Mary left at 10, dipping south of the border and back once more. She was left inside a shambles 4 days after crossing into winter. She buckled up her belt and looked down on the stars through opened arms. It was all over in a heartbeat, quicker than a screening of a feature film. Her heart sank and they went women and children first. Mary fell apart and let them go. Instantly drinking, they followed her. They were shocked, awed and outraged, things going missing and failing operations, rules and regulations in stateside, seaside safety. Mary left a legacy of silos, 10 decades of future improvements, mostly lost clothing and families struggling for money, Chairman Bruce scarred for life, accused of cowardice and complacency. Mary's wrecked and seldom seen, slowly drifting. We found her and displayed her in museums, going down on her in history. She's famous now, a softly sleeping song. Background. Mary was born in Belfast, the middle sister of Olympians, formerly gigantic with the biggest teens. She talked with Captain Morgan, ran faster than Hamburg and Berlin, raced Ishmael, building bins and condominiums. They were built by wolves with bells on, with well-known flowers and designer labels. They switched constants and turned away. Oceanus threw the wolves to the wind and wrote dark lines in dry tombs in case the games gained the ruling troika, charging extra for murder in the water. Dogs and scoundrels whipped the sky with lords and ladies, bearded mathematicians, chess champions and other madmen. They painted seasides red with general implements, building sharp-eyed statues of David's mighty lifetime. Dimensions and layout. Mary was long and tall, and her breasts were measured from head to heel, and sex offenders called her disappointing. She decked her sisters, carried cards for friends and family. She set sails and indexed every hour before the Northern Star alighted. Bridges were burned and wheels were stacked, and Mary put her first foot forward, a stretched-out totalitarian entrance. They came to hit the ceiling while cigarettes were rolled like seashells. Dead trees eked out racial engines. They lined livers and covered railings. There was another who stroked reserves and drew palm trees in the courtroom. Mary built bridges and the weight nearly killed her. They took her through promenades, ate in restaurants like lost lepers in the darkness. Mary, she slept by smokers, raised hell's accommodation with gadget machines. They said human flight was impossible. See, she sheltered high in interrupted jawlines, well west of worthless walkways. Mary crewed 4 castles in the public eye, reading Bibles in the library. They slung guns in western bars, stealing skylines. Goddamn peasants eating pliers in the sunshine. This was a common crib for firemen, and now it's time for water. They cared for cooks and seamen, stained stewards who trimmed beards for pittances, by completionists who took care of nothing. Gangsters at the bottom, gangsters who stared through gaps at waterfalls. Mary wore tank tops and swam below the waterline, down beneath the bottom of the boilers. She was the dominatrix, the sleek invisible steam. Mary walked upstairs to D-deck. Engines, boilers and generators. Oceanus was the ruling troika, hot with reciprocal love and steamy in the middle. She had points to spare and gave love to turbans. They'd been used before. Mary gave back power like a slow car to New Orleans, wore cosmic vibes mixing movies with petroleum, cut back on mysteries while kettles boiled. They were all powerful with 24 double-ended furnaces. We kept them warm with fire, burning embers, fed by hand, mailing bodies to the sea. It was dirty, dark and dangerous. Desperate men died fighting. Their excrement was something silent. They made legends in the boiling room, drinking milk and steaming waterfalls. Mary had the power. She could feed cities and sparkled aluminium. She kept emergency cigarettes out back and stayed up way past midnight. Technical facilities. See, Mary had 2 long legs to move it. She hopped across town with 1 shoe in her handbag, stiff spring chickens pitching in with things. She had recruits to captain. She was always fond of crying and warmed her veins by boiling kerosene, complicated but easy to play. They gave her clean water, but she could turn salt sour in a heartbeat. She drove air through classic caravans, sang through chipped teeth, absorbing sound in foreign languages. Her lungs were strung parallel and could really bellow through blackness, the strongest soprano of the century. She insured her voice and sang for gypsies. Mary was a Marxist, passing icicles through her cheekbones. Passenger facilities. Mary had bountiful babies, treated like kings and locked behind steel doors for doubtful shareholders. She could only carry shopping bags, developed bad manners and ate crackers, drew caricatures and floated overseas. Mary had mobiles picking blackberries in the summer sun. She swam and curled and drank on the veranda, devil's splendours staring stony-faced. She had Paris in the autumn, filtering sunlight. They ruled in isolation, their luxury confined to cabins on the mountainside, numbering hundreds. They in the wind, washed rags and linen, filing iron while pigs sleep with other pigs. They gave them fun and games and smoked cigars outside gymnasiums, walking past broken benches. They printed out addresses and sold them for a face with personality. Mary was famous for her straight spine, and she'd go down on anyone. Clouds called her heavenly, and life was lighter than iron. She wore wooden watches and prayed for hope and glory, seconds ticking away like grains of sand in a waterfall. Now she's just a void or a shortcut to the future. Mail and cargo. She was a person for people, a real socialite with a talent for carrying cardboard, cubes of dead limbs and magic bullets. They have issues, man. They brought past relationships and dead generations. They picked them all, packed up in trunks and golden boxes, holy light electricals steaming hotter than the summertime, all that baggage hauling coal. Lifeboats. Mary wore dozens of belts, and her wooden wolves were folding deck chairs filled to brimming. They carried dozens and would cut wood past security guards with odd smiles. Offshore captains courting skinny women who challenged them to carry water to the finish line, stringing ropes around their necks to save the men from drowning. Mary was big enough for everyone, but without a full stomach. Back then, the cold exceeded all expectations. That was part 1 of Oceanus by myself, Dane Cobain. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound, and it's time for some music. This is Esther Hayes with Black and Blue.
How do you hide a bruise when it's under your skin but constantly pushing through? Please tell me, how do you close off your heart when it's been beaten and torn apart? When is the time right right to say I'm through. There's no point crying, there's nothing to do. Like a mirror shattered, I no longer have a clear view of you. And I am always turning, and I am always turning. Black and blue, black and blue. I'll say it louder, I'll say it louder. It's all thanks to you. It's all thanks to you. It's alright, darling, now I see the truth. The thoughts you've been hiding, the fear of wasted youth. I want you to know that I see the strain in your smiles. 'Cause you know this town was never ours. Isn't it funny how these things go? They're watching our cities die from miles below. You cut all of your ties to try to keep a hold. But honey, did you forget about me? How do you hide a bruise? I'm not the one who will lose. How do you hide a bruise? I'm not the one who'll turn black and blue.
To school, but I worked my father's land. I'd never been 10 miles from our home. But after 15 summers, I could ride and I could shoot, and I ventured to the county fair alone. The sergeant in the army tent had shillings on his drum, and his stories and the ale called to me. Before I knew it, I'd received my shilling and a gun, off to fight the French for my king and country. And it wasn't just the foe who saw us coming, as we marched in line with rifles in our hands, and slaughtered boys who looked like us but spoke another tongue, to decide which rich man got to rule the land. Rule the land. 2 centuries on, it's still the same. Everything's different, but nothing's changed. I wasn't good at school, and I couldn't find a job that required all the skills I'd learned at home. A life of watching movies, playing Xbox, flying drones doesn't fit you for a standard office clone. But I'd seen all the recruitment advertising. Let us make you into all that you can be. And before I knew it, I'd received a buzz cut and a gun, and the rest is military history. We'd make friends to last a lifetime. They never said how long that life would be. And those of us who made it back were not the boys who left our homes to answer to the call of our duty. They promised we'd come back covered in glory. We'd be heroes and our country would be proud. But who has work for men who've seen too much and can't forget the things they've done, and blood spill on that foreign ground? And it wasn't just the foe who saw us coming, as we stood there with our papers in our hands. It wasn't in the desert or the field or in the trench, but on the home front where we took our final stand. It wasn't just the foe who saw us coming, as we stood there with our papers in our hands. It wasn't in the desert or the field or in the trench, but on the home front where we took our final stand. The final stand. The land, who makes the choice, who makes the profit, who pays the price.
That was Simon Gregory, and before that we had Black and Blue by Esther Hayes. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wycombe Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and it's time for us to start with our highlight show now. And we're going to start with a little bit of our chat to Tom Veck. So over to Tom.
Cool. So one of the things, this kind of goes back to some of your sci-fi concepts, and you're free to use this for a song if you'd like. But if you had a time machine and you could go back in time to when you were first starting out, maybe when you were first writing that first comedy song, what message would you give yourself?
Right. So when I was back in the day, yeah, I would say, I mean, I guess if I was going back to when I was first going to perform on stage, I would say, look out there, look at those people. They're all awesome. They're brilliant. They've all got their struggles. They've all got their things they bring to the world. They're amazing, and they've come here, and they want to support you. And go out there, not to show them how good you are. Go out there and give them some music as a way of saying thank you for being so awesome. Because at the time when I was much, much younger, I was just desperately trying to prove that I was worthy of whatever love or support or people's time. And it makes you so nervous. Your whole life is on the line. Whereas now I go out there and I'm like, I've got something to give you lot, and you're going to really enjoy it, and let's have fun together. And that is so much easier. It's so much less stressful, and it's kind of like, you don't necessarily care so much if you mess it up or if things go wrong, because it's just, it is a gift, you know.
Yeah.
You can't scoff at a gift. It's like, oh, actually, I don't quite like the cover of this book. Can you take it back? You know, it's like, no, this is for you. You know?
Yeah.
So
Cool.
yeah, that's probably the advice I'd give.
Awesome. So you mentioned as well that in one of your emails to me, I think, that you've been on a few other radio shows recently. What can you tell us about those?
Yeah, what about the shows, or about how the interviews went, or
A bit of both, yeah. What did you talk about?
I went on, I think it was Radio Somerset, and that was fun. With Sally, and it was brilliant. Anyway, somehow she got me talking about the time that I was a life model for one day, and I don't know why we started talking about that, but anyway, she found it so funny that I ended up going away and writing a song about that time that I was a life model. And so now I've got this new song in my set, which was great. Yeah, and what else did I go on? Oh, another sort of shorter show. Yeah, I've been quite enjoying doing a bit of, you know, radio interviews. It's nice to talk about yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
A bit, and kind of just, it makes you think more clearly about what it is you do and why you do it. And yeah, I find it really, really helpful.
Yeah, well, and you got a song out of that one as well, so that's pretty cool as well.
Got a song out of it, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, that was a highlight of our chat with Tom Veck, and now we're going to go over to part of our chat with Kevvie from Say Kevvie on YouTube. So over to Kevvie.
Cool, amazing. Okay, and so you mentioned your experience with drag as well, and one of the things that you did. It's been a while now, admittedly, I think, since you've done one of these, but you did your drag history reading series. So I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about that, and maybe tell us about one of your, particular favorites from that.
Yeah, absolutely. It has been a while since I've finished one of those. Drag history has always been one of my greatest passions.
Yeah.
Because we have such a rich and deep history, but nobody really knows about it. And in addition to that, with the AIDS epidemic of the 80s and 90s, we lost so much of our community and our entertainers. I read a statistic somewhere that said 90% of queer nightlife entertainers were lost during that time. Well, that means a whole chunk of our history was just wiped out. And so I live with this fear that if somebody doesn't actively try to preserve and share this history, then it will continue to be erased and wiped out and forgotten. So, yeah, one thing I like to do is going through all of my academic drag history texts, read portions about various figures from drag history on camera so that I can share them with my audience. And
yeah, and the world, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And probably the most important one for me was Ginger Grant. She was the host at a Chicago-based venue called The Baton, which is the longest running drag venue, I think, in the country. They've been open since 1969. And Ginger began hosting there in, I believe, 1994, and was the host up until her death in 2018.
All right, that was a highlight of part of our chat with Say Kevvie from YouTube. And this is part of our chat with the one and only Hounds of Magic.
So obviously I want to talk to you guys about your music today. And I thought a good place to start would be to ask who's in the band and what instruments they play.
Yeah, well, we got Ed on bass and the kazoo. You found it in a cracker, wouldn't you?
All right.
But yeah, so Ed plays bass, I play guitar. We use a drum machine. Soph does vocals, lead and backing, and we all do lead and backing vocals. You know, we use electric guitars, a lot of pedals, you know, rhythm, acoustic sounds. Try and mix it up a bit as much as we can in the genre of rock pop, you know.
Occasionally for each and use synthesizers, and then we'll go and like put random sound effects, like we'll go and throw a spoon at a load of metal objects and then record what happens, and then see if we can go and mix that into something like a keyboard synthesizer afterwards, and put that in. That's an experimental phase that we're probably going through with our latest recording. Whether it actually manifests itself out into the real world, we don't know yet. But
one to look out for sure. I saw a guy the other day actually. Well, it was a band, and they're like kind of like a screamo band, but they use a synthesizer that they've made out of. It's an old Game Boy, so you can program the synth sounds into the Game Boy, and because it's the Game Boy, it's like all that 8-bit sort of really iconic Game Boy sound, and so they're mixing that in with heavy rock, and it was really interesting to sort of see how they've done that.
No way.
Sounds well good.
I had this amazing idea with it. This is cat that lives outside my house. I was going to go and like feed it, and then go and like just record it for 5 minutes and get all the meow sounds.
Yeah.
And then go program them into this keyboard I've got over there, and then see what happens, and then try and make a song out of it. That'd be amazing. And
Nice.
I like harmonies and everything.
Yeah.
It's a trailblazer.
Yeah.
Cool. And I was going to ask you about your sound, but you've kind of covered sort of the genres that you play in. I mean, who are some of the bands that influence you guys?
I've heard that if you say that, you get sued, so I'm not going to say anything. You two can say something.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a part of the lawsuit.
I like a lot of the old stuff, you know, Jimi Hendrix, like, you know, that being cliched, like the Beatles and Small Faces, the Who, all that, but older stuff as well, out the 40s and 50s, and like, it's a big melting pot music, isn't it? You can sort of you can lose yourself in so many different zones. You know, that's what I've been sort of delving into the older stuff. I know your band, Neil, to do Mac Life.
Yeah.
And I'm loving that song at the moment. I just can't get it out of my head, you know.
Yeah. I'm quite in. Well, I do like Coldplay, and I like Katie Melua.
And how did you guys first get together? Like, when did you become the Hounds?
Well, I met Ed at a mate's birthday party, and he was just as insane back then as he is now, you know, complete lunatic. And he said, "Oh, you play guitar, didn't you? Do you want to join the band?" And so I said, "Yeah, well, I'll join a band if we do original songs, just write our own music. I'll be into that." But I hadn't played for about 20 years before then, you know. A few doodles here and there, but it sort of came together like that. And, you know, before we knew it, we were hammering out the tunes, Ed, weren't we?
Mm.
And then Sophie joined later on, you know. She got a really sweet angelic voice, and we asked her to join to sort of balance us out a bit from being a rabid, you know, male shout festival, you know.
Yeah. That was a highlight from our chat with Hounds of Magic. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. And it's time for some more music. This is Sweet Soul Music by Straight 8.
We're dancing to the music. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
sweet soul music by Straight 8. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound, and this week we have a bit of a highlights show. And we're going to go straight over now to a highlight of our chat with GraceNote. One to start with is for you guys to introduce, because I guess you're in a couple of acts, aren't you, really? And so, yeah, I wondered if you could kind of introduce some of the acts that you perform in, and also what you do in them as well.
Well, two main acts, really. There's the two of us together as GraceNote, which is we describe as an acoustic duo. It's guitar, vocals, male and female vocals, and percussion. And then the full-blown 5-piece covers band Ear Candy. And yeah, that's with obviously the two of us, and drums, bass, and saxophone.
We have to fight to keep hold of our saxophone player there because she's terribly good, Dr. Sax. So she's very much in demand. So we jealously guard her.
So they're our regular gigging acts.
At the moment, although there's a little project in the pipeline.
And then we do quite a bit of open mics with the two of us. Just like to get up and sing, really.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's a great way to keep in touch with your friends as well, and the open mic community is so welcoming and is so collaborative, and a great example of how music is just not a competition. It's a collaborative, really sort of joyous community thing to do. So there's all sorts of abilities of players turn up at open mic nights, and to a one they are supported, and it's lovely. So yeah, I really enjoy that.
And I imagine you get a similar thing to me, where it's like, if you go to an open mic or even just a live music, a gig anywhere around here, you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to know somebody there as well. So as you say, that's one of the great social things about it, is you go out to have your, to go and play a few tunes, but actually it's also, I know it's almost like the adult equivalent of a youth club or something, isn't it? You never know who's going to turn up.
Absolutely, quite.
We've said, to each other quite a few times over the last couple of years, as we've gone out to more and more events locally, and just that feeling of walking into a pub, whether it be an open mic or a band playing or something, and there's someone say hello to you and say hello to someone else, and there's all these people you just know, and they always seem as pleased to see you as we are as pleased to see people who know us. It's really nice.
That was one of the nicest moments as we came out. I think it was between the second and third lockdown. There was an event at Wickham Arts Centre that was really socially distanced, and it felt really safe, lots of space. But just walking in a room and seeing faces of people that you hadn't seen for 18 months and just reconnecting with people was just one of the most amazing feelings. And it was so lovely. And you get that in the music scene because everybody does know one another. And some of us have been playing the same songs for 25 years, but nobody cares. It's fine.
It's funny. Some of the different people I've spoken to, I've asked about kind of how COVID kind of affected their music, but also I guess like how important music is in a COVID world, but you guys have got it a bit differently, because obviously with you living together, there's, a lot of bands haven't been able to practice because they all live in different households and the households weren't allowed to mix. So, I mean, did you have it the other way around? Were you there sort of during COVID lockdowns, learning new songs and using it as an excuse to do more music?
I don't know that we did more. We did a few live streams on Facebook, which it was funny because we thought a few people had done them in the early days, and I thought, should we give it a go? Let's give it a go. And we did one.
You were a bit skeptical, weren't you? I think it's fair to say.
It was all right. And it's a different experience because you're playing to a computer screen, and although we're
looking
monitoring
for likes on your mobile phone,
monitoring the mobile phone to see if we're getting any response, and we were. It was great.
Things,
but it does. It's a bit more.
New Year's Eve we did, didn't we? 2020, we did a New Year's Eve thing because we would ordinarily have been playing with the band, and that was brilliant. Just to do something and have some structure around the evening. And two of my kids came and actually sat in the room, even though they're teenagers, and mum's terribly embarrassing. But actually sort of came in and sort of seemingly quite enjoyed it, because they were actually doing something on a New Year's Eve.
But
it was good. We didn't do as much as we probably should have done. There was a bit of box set malaise set in for a while.
All right, that was part of our chat with GraceNote, and we're going to shoot over now to part of our interview with Rob Full Stop. So over to Rob.
Well, and you know, you mentioning older, can you tell us a little bit about what the song's about, and also about the artwork for it?
Yeah. So well, the song's just like about, so obviously I just turned 30 as well, so like that's like I probably subconsciously waited until like, I mean, I knew I was turning 30 anyways, but like until like sort of close to the time. But it's more about like I'm like a big kid anyway. I'm just like that. I watch cartoons. I watch all the cartoons, and I do what I want, and it's just what I don't like adulting at all. And it's just a bit sad that I can't just continue being more childlike. And as I get a bit older, I'm getting more like turning more adult, and it's a bit sad and everything. Do you know what I mean? So it's about just getting older, trying to keep hold of a little bit of your childlike qualities, because like your childlike wonder, if you will, and just keeping on to it and not letting your dreams like slip away, or what you want to do, just keep at it. Like I don't get that much time to do music stuff anymore, but when I do, I spend hours doing it, and I don't get disturbed or anything. I just have to keep doing it in the small amount of time that I've got. So yeah, that's what it's about. Without over explaining it, I could probably not go into too much more detail anyway, just because I waffle.
You kind of want the song to you know, to speak for itself as well.
That too. So every single song that I write as well, I really love hearing when people say, oh, this is my interpretation of your song.
Yeah.
Because my really like my first release track, For the Best, I've had a few people saying like, I think this means this to me, and this is what I like take from that. And I was like, that's wonderful. And then sometimes they'll ask me, what does it mean? I said, it means whatever you want it to mean to you, and it does not matter what the song actually means to me, so long as you enjoyed it, and so long as you take away something from it that's positive, or do you know what I mean, or it helps you in some way. So that's sort of what it is. Artwork wise, I just did some doodles and then took some pictures on my phone, used like 6 different apps. I use like these different apps, puts these weird filters on and all sorts of stuff, and then it just magically appeared. And I don't understand how it does, because I've not done before that, I hadn't drawn or done anything sort of artistic, music like wise obviously not, but like anything artistic sort of drawing wise, or anything sort of visual since I've been about 15. And I just one day I just went, I just want to like draw something. I think even on my Instagram, I saw my Instagram, I put through like all of the like the stages of it, and it looks absolutely nothing like the end product. The end of it, but like you'll see like how rubbish something starts, and like, well, not rubbish, but like it doesn't look good, to how like me faffing with it and doing all these weird and wonderful like things with these apps on my phone or on the computer and editing it a bit, and then it makes it into this wonderful thing. And I think it still looks like a lion, a lioness or something. However, people have said they see other animals in it, which is really cool. But it was literally just a doodle. I start drawing lines and it turns into something, and I've gone, well, I'm using that. And then I think I just mirrored it as well. It's not even the full original picture. It's just a mirror of the original one, and it just looks like this really cool, like trippy animal like in the center. And it just sort of, I don't know, it felt right for the song as well. So it's, I don't know why, it just felt like it needed to be on that. And obviously like it kind of reminds me of a lion, and sort of being older, and the older lion sort of like of like the leader generally. So do you know what I mean, taking control of your own sort of your own like little pack.
All right, that was part of our chat with Rob Full Stop. You've been listening to a highlights episode of the Art Show on Wickham Sound. This is Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick by Jury Service.
deserts of Sudan and the gardens of Japan, from Milan to Yucatan. Every woman, every man. Hit me with your rhythm stick. Hit me, je t'adore, ich liebe dich. Hit me, hit me, hit me. Hit me with your rhythm stick. Hit me slowly, hit me quick. Hit me, hit me, hit me. In the wilds of Borneo and the vineyards of Bordeaux, Eskimo, Arapaho, move their bodies to and fro. Hit me with your rhythm stick. Hit me, das ist gut, say, fantastic. Hit me, hit me, hit me. Hit me with your rhythm stick. It's nice to be a lunatic. Hit me, hit me, hit me. In the dock of Tiger Bay, on the road to Mandalay, from Bombay to Santa Fe, o'er the hills and far away. Hit me with your rhythm stick. Hit me, c'est si bon, he says nicht. Hit me, hit me, hit me. Hit me with your rhythm stick. Two fat persons, click, click, click. Hit me, hit me, hit me. Hit me, hit me, hit me, hit me. Hit me, hit me, hit me. Hit me, hit me, hit me, hit me, hit me. Hit me, hit me, ow! Hit me, hit me, hit me, hit me, hit me, hit me.
You can feel the shock wave of my heart. You can also tear my world and skies apart. Explosion of emotions. Your contamination will forever last. No radioactive smog will always cloud over my path. Of delivery comes in different forms. I try to duck and cover as you swing your chemical claws. Increase the size of your arsenal and expand your yield. Expand your yield. I'll fade one that we both share. Surely seal. Surely seal. Our love is like rain, like me.
That was Nuclear Love by Humans Can't Reboot, and before that we had Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick by Jury Service. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. And it's that time in the show where we head over to the Oak Shed to catch up with Twangling Jack Ford for this week's album review.
Queen, Sheer Heart Attack. Queen's first two albums seemed almost to be trying too hard. They were not as successful as they probably should have been. The playing was excellent, but they had such an almost mismatch of styles. At times very much clever prog rock, at times skull-crunchingly heavy, at times pure pop with harmonies to rival the Beach Boys, but rather confusingly packaged like a glam rock act, though with little musically in common with Bowie, Bolan or Slade. Catchy themes would be cut frustratingly short by equally catchy themes, like there was just not enough time on four sides of vinyl for all their ideas, thwarted by their own versatility and ambition, though it was a ploy that they went on to perfect with Bohemian Rhapsody. There were two great singles in Keep Yourself Alive and 7 Seas of Rye. The maddeningly infectious coda to How Funny How Love Is, and there was the epic Liar with its gospel vocal breakdown and a finale brief enough to make you want more. It was probably the first of Queen we saw on the TV, and very puzzling it was. Sheer Heart Attack is not just the album with Killer Queen and Now I'm Here that came out before A Night at the Opera. It is a great album, my favourite Queen album, the only one I would pay full price for. On Sheer Heart Attack the songs are much less disjointed, so you have the ones with big melodies, the fast rockers, the catchy commercial ones, and then you have the novelty song, the vaudeville number that sounds like it could have been from Bugsy Malone. It opens with Brighton Rock, which is the one occasion that Brian May's guitar is allowed to do more than just serve the songs. And so unleashed from the tight reins of the song's construction, it gallops recklessly through canyons of Echoplex. The achingly delicate piano and melody of Lily of the Valley. The epic operatic climactic pomp of In the Lap of the Gods, and those songs that would be revered in any other band's back catalogue, but are largely forgotten Queen gems like the catchy poppy Misfire, and the haunting She Makes Me Stormtrooper in Stilettos, which is my all-time favourite Queen song. Sheer Heart Attack, Queen.
Twangling Jack Ford for this week's album review. Thank you to everyone whose interviews I shared excerpts from. Thank you to everyone whose music I've played. As always, you can reach out to me here on the studio by dropping me an email on dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. I particularly want to hear from poets, performers, musicians, anyone with activity in the local art scene, people with MP3s in particular, potential guests, etc. Do reach out and get in touch. You can also find us on Facebook if you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, and we're repeated on Monday nights on Wickham Sound. We're on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, and you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. So I'm going to leave you with a little bit of music now, and this is Sick by Dan Pride.
Waking up and the midnight sun shines bright. Now I'm about, I can't do anything I like. I could go on an adventure, or I could change my life. But the thing is, I don't want to get much done tonight, no. I could go to Middle Earth, and I could be the bearer of the ring. I could be reborn into Tamriel as the one honest overkin. See, I can turn to the dark side, strike my foes down with lightning. And the procrastination's killing me when I am not working. Mugged up and sitting in my room. a time traveler and go saving the universe. I could develop superpowers and return that woman's purse. If I'm good enough, then maybe I'll get included. The Marvel Cinematic Universe. The thing is, it's nearly 3 AM and I can't finish this verse. Fucked up and sitting in my room. Nothing is what I wanna do. If you could come home to me right now, this feeling wouldn't be so foul. Then I could go see the Wizard of Oz, and I could explore his Emerald City. See, I could audition to be a famous actor, but I'm not flamboyant or pretty. I could turn into a god, I could be a demon or a cupid. I could go on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire if I wasn't so goddamn stupid. Locked up and sitting in my room. Nothing is what I wanna do. If you could come home to me right now, this feeling wouldn't be so foul. In the ground, 'cause I'm sick of just wanna quit, get out this town. So cut me down, put me in the ground, 'cause I'm sick of this just wanna quit, get out this town. So cut me down, put me in the ground, 'cause I'm sick of just wanna quit, get out this town. Cut me down, put me in the ground, 'cause I'm sick of this, wanna quit, get out there.